All right, guys, step four. Before we get into this step, an important disclaimer, very important. I am not a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a licensed therapist, or any kind of ist. Okay, so I'm in no position to inform an individual to stop taking prescribed medication. Right? If you're taking prescribed medication that helps, that's awesome. If you have a desire to stop taking it or titrate off of it, speak with a professional. All right. So now that that's out of the way, step four, we set the intention to abstain from all substances that drastically altered our perception of reality. And I use the word drastically in there because we're speaking about, hard narcotics. And I mean, this one, it should go without saying. And, quitting often automatically occurs for a lot of targeted individuals. And if you've already quit all substances, that's fantastic. This may not apply to you. If you're still struggling, I understand. I am a recovering drug addict and alcoholic myself. I struggled with drugs and alcohol for over 20 years. I mean, I lost count of how many detoxes and rehabs that I've been in. And sometimes I'd have little like white knuckle victories that would last a short time, but I would always relapse. And what this step really comes down to is power and control. Okay. Gaining control back over your own mind, allowing your brain to get back to a place of biochemical homeostasis. Your imbalance will be used against you. All right. My drug of choice was methamphetamine, and I don't hide that. And this is a pretty relatable issue for a lot of people. And when you deplete the brain of serotonin and dopamine, it's not that you're creating fear or paranoia, but there's no chemical counterbalance there to fight against the adrenaline and cortisol, right? Which is fear. I went for years with my fight or flight response fully activated. Small things like going to Walmart become giant obstacles of fear to overcome. And the meth makes one hyper aware of and easily persuaded by a manipulation that is always occurring in the mind. I feel I kept breaking into an arena of consciousness that I had no business being in, especially in the condition that I was in. And these entities, whoever they are, they scared me out for years, coming and going, and then finally sucking me in on a more permanent basis. It's like I had pay-per-view to this nightmare for years, only to be given free streaming service so that I'd appropriately choose to want neither. And then of course there's your sleep. Your sleep becomes sporadic. And when you don't sleep for days at a time, your brain's subconscious and unconscious experience becomes interlaced with your conscious experience, right? All the extreme fears that are faced within the confines of your dream state begin to run congruently with the awake state of mind. And trying to function in a normal world with the unconscious world superimposed is a disaster just waiting to happen. Um, I I'm going to share a story with everyone that I've never spoken about to anyone except with my girlfriend Rebecca. So before I got sober, I was traveling. We were traveling, and while in Denver, Colorado, I bumped into some random kid at a train station that offered me some Suboxone. And I've never really been an opioid user. And if you take Suboxone with no other opiates in your system, it's the same as doing opiates. So I took a whole strip while on the train heading downtown. And by the time I got off of the train downtown, it kicked in. And I remember bits and pieces of the next few hours. I walked in circles for hours, lost, like blacking out, then coming to, and then I kept seeing the same landmarks over and over and over again. I was just going around in city block circles, and this wasn't like dipping out. It was like I kept getting put down, like a lot of us experience mentally, into a sleep mode, but my body was in autopilot. I still was going. And I remember on one of the occasions when I came out of the sleep mode, I looked around at unfamiliar scenery, and the male voice that I always hear, it came in loud and clear. And this is what he said to me. He said, "I've never had so much fun with this guy." I mean, that's some scary shit. That was the last time I've ever taken anything like that. I became a walking zombie puppet for these entities. And if you really think about it, I could have been used to gang stalk someone, just walking around for hours in circles, totally oblivious, being steered out of my control, and figure someone else tweaked out on meth sees that and thinks that they're being followed. When we give control of our minds over to unknown entities, we are used against one another. Bottom line, stop giving them control. I speak to a lot of people that stop using drugs and the associated TI symptoms begin to recede, then they relapse. And it's like a double relapse because the TI symptoms come right back, often worse than they were to begin with. And again, this step is about regaining control and power over your life. It's about coming to the realization that without you, all substances are powerless. If I had a bag of drugs and a glass of beer in front of me right now, they themselves are powerless on their own accord. Like everything else on this planet, if left alone, it'll expire, it'll evaporate. It only has use, power, and purpose when I make the conscious decision to digest them. Don't ever get it twisted in your head. They need you for purpose, not the other way around. Okay? Set the intention to never subject your mind to an entity that will exploit its imbalance. Right? We're all from the same planet, right? I hope, hopefully, right? Earth, yeah. So Earth works because it's perfectly balanced in that Goldilocks zone that they refer to it as. Not too close to the sun, not too far away, just the right amount of spin and atmospheric conditions to bring forth abundant life. That is what we are all apart from. That's what we're all a part of, a balanced biosphere, and we are meant to emulate that which we come from. Stopping substance use is not easy, but this whole TI process is about regaining impulse control and mental fortitude, right? When I was an active user, I was a complete slave to an unnatural chemical that thought for me, made decisions for me, and created a detachment from reality, which created a detachment from the bonds and connections with other people, which is what truly mattered. Quitting substances is a great first step towards respecting your body, your mind, and your spirit. It's also the start of creating memories with the appropriate emotion attached to the memory. So when you're intoxicated day in and day out every single day, the memories that you were creating are all lies, right? Your whole life becomes a lie because a walk in the park is not meant to have the same emotion attached to it as riding a roller coaster. Okay. When I quit, it was a nightmare going back and reevaluating my past because I became so emotionally detached from reality. I was blind to the hurt that I was causing in other people's lives. Also, looking back at my previous substance abuse, I showed zero respect for the fact that I am a landlord of consciousness, right? I just kept treating my mind like a chemical waste dump and wondering how could I have possibly exposed myself to some entity that began treating it like its own personal playground of torture, you know? Another community member, this is a true story. Okay, another community member that I've gotten to become friends with never used meth, never anything like that, but was a heavy DMT smoker. And after a month-long binge of using DMT, was physically, bodily attacked by some entity that came through a portal that he saw, and the entity verbally assaulted him with all the normal derogatory stuff that we TIs hear, the same sequence, right? And attacked his body for 3 weeks before leaving, and leaving him with permanent back damage. And again, step one, I humbly admit I have no clue exactly what the source or origin of this affliction is, but it's very evident that our minds are susceptible to attack and manipulation when we consume substances that stand to alter our perception of reality. Okay, so if this is a problem for anyone, start by setting the intention. I set the intention to abstain from my drug of choice. Never hesitate to reach out to someone within the community or, I mean, direct message me personally if you're struggling with thoughts of using, because it always starts with a thought. Always, every time. The thought becomes a lust, and then the lust becomes an action. Okay. Reach out before lust settles in. If you're watching this on TikTok and haven't stopped by the Reddit community, Positive TI yet, please do so. Okay. You'll find a great community of targeted individuals that will be more than happy to help answer any questions that you may have, or probably find the answers that you're already looking for in one of the posts. So all right, thank you for taking the time to watch, and the next step video will be an important one as well. Step 5, we began to cultivate a spiritual and philosophical foundation based on precepts that truly resonate with us. All right, community, till next time.